Hello and welcome to the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast with Mike and Laurent. It's Friday, July 2nd. In this episode, we will discuss England winning the Battle of Britain again. The quarterfinals matchups for the Euro, which we've been covering all summer. But Mike, give us an update on the bracket challenge. Is anyone left?
Oh, plenty of people are left. It's funny. I think we have a breakdown of there's roughly 40 entries. 12 people had France. The most people, most team picked.
I did.
Yeah. I'm sorry. The second most team picked had there's 10 people with France. 12 people have Italy.
Oh, so they're still hanging on.
So they're still hanging on. That we'll talk about a big matchup between Belgium and Italy this weekend. But yes, we have some interesting developments from the quarterfinal or the round of 16.
If Belgium beats Italy, is anyone going to win? Is really the question.
Yeah, well, I'm going to finish in the top 3. I guarantee it if that's the case because I have Belgium winning. But in that event, I'm not eligible to win the prizes. Right?
No, I think there's a point system. It'll just go down.
There's a point system, and so everybody can see it on runyourpool.com, which is super cool.
Yeah.
And whoever gets first, second, and third is going to be getting these World Soccer Shop gift cards. But right now, my buddy Kenny is riding high on number 1, and he's got Belgium, so he's going against the grain. But my other pal, my neighbor down here in Florida, Taylor, who is English, I saw him earlier today or yesterday, and he's an Arsenal supporter, and he was very, very happy to have seen Harry Kane score a goal, I think probably for the first time, I guess probably since the 2018 World Cup. He's got the most possible points left, and he's got Spain winning it all. So it's an interesting dynamic. Again, if you're in the group, it's on runyourpool.com. You can see a whole bunch of different ways this breaks out. You can see who's got how many teams.
I think I shared my photo of my picks in the group.
It's horrible.
It is a bloodbath. It's literally worse than the Battle of France. I think my team gave up. We stayed on the roads and got strafed by Stukas the whole time. It was really bad. We're the refugees on the road leaving Paris. It's a catastrophe.
You and our buddy Jay Devlin are actually, you've both got champions who are out now, but Jay had Germany, you had France. You're not in last place. There are a few people who did even worse.
Wow. That's impressive. I think it's because I had the Danes.
Round.
Yeah.
Through this round, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you kind of screwed up there. You have 10 possible points remaining in the entire tournament. To be clear, Kenny in first place has 48. Taylor in second has 62. So there's some inside edge there for Taylor. But again, you have 10. So the most amount of points you'll finish with is 16. That's not going to do it. But yeah.
Hey, listen, it happens, man. Football's fucking weird.
Our buddy Sturch, one of the owners of Chow Sports, is hanging out in mid-table, but he's got 60 points possible remaining. And that's the thing. It multiplies. It's the same thing as March Madness, right? It multiplies round over round.
Yeah.
So each win you get from here on out is worth 2x what it was in the last round. So
it's like the money in the Champions League for the big teams.
Right, exactly. So you can make up lost ground in a hurry. But yeah,
if you have the final, you're gold.
It's shaping up to be a lot of fun. The Belgium-Italy game, like I mentioned, we'll talk about later in the show, is going to really separate the men from the Laurents in this bracket challenge. So it's been fun to watch so far. If you're in the Squeaky Bum Time Facebook group, which I obviously have been talking all about, you need to check out every game I've been putting screenshots in of who's got what team. Now it used to be for the round of 16, everybody had some say in the matter, but now people will not be rooting for either side if they had France to win it between Spain and Switzerland. So, but we're burying the lead, right? There was a tremendously earth-shattering, important game and social
but not
event.
Particularly good.
No, but it was an important social
psychological
event that happened in London on Tuesday. We spoke to you last Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon. England faced off with their oldest nemesis, the Germans, at Wembley. The bombs were flying. The Germans were fleeing. Talk to us a little bit about your take from that match. How did they go about avenging Gareth Southgate's miss in Euro 96?
So the first thing was the lineup was petrifying. No Foden, no Grealish, no Mount. He went with Rice and the Leeds midfielder. Phillips, is that his name? Phillips?
Calvin Phillips, yeah.
Yeah.
So and double pivot with five at
defensive,
the back.
But then the three at the back with Kyle Walker in defense with Slabhead and Stones. So the five at the back, and then the two wing backs with your boy Trippier and Shaw. So it was super defensive. And at first I was just like, this is bad. And at first it looked bad because Germany was really popping the ball around for the first 10 or 15 minutes as England got their footing trying to control things. Southgate took a risk putting Rice in with a yellow card, which was dangerous because if you miss a game, and we'll pick that up as we go into the other previews, players miss games. 2 yellows, you're gone. Not normally you're gone out of a game, but even within this context, 2 yellows in back-to-back games, you're gone. I was nervous. We all kind of secretly support England in a weird way because of our affiliation with the Premier League. And I had an English girlfriend and admittedly Anglophile person. So I knew the history. I was in London during Euro 96. Like I know what this meant.
Yeah.
I watched it live in 96 on TV on the BBC. So I had a good sense of the historical importance of this game, but England started popping things around, got control of the game. And I think that was Southgate's intention, was to lock this game up and really be like, we got this. We've got better players. And when I picked up the game in the second half, I just saw England dominating more than anything. Aside from this, like we said, the Sterling mistake and a couple of massive saves from Pickford, especially the Havertz one. But Havertz, that was not the Havertz attempt that was sort of early in the second half, late in the first half, was really hard and an incredible piece of skill. He volleyed it from just inside the box. And I mean, it's a laser beam that Pickford pounces up and stops.
Thankfully, it was right at him. I mean, he still had to make a save, right?
It may have hit the post because it was still going up.
I think that's going bar down, but yeah.
Right. It could have gone bar down or like off his back or something like that.
Right.
But it was an amazing piece of skill and a better save. So, England would have been hard done by like, God damn it, that's a good fucking goal. But Pickford saved it. And then again, Raheem Sterling who had been really bossing the game, made that huge mistake, back pass. I think.
Well, let's slow it down a little bit, right? Because there was the Havertz save, which was important, but Werner gets loose earlier in the first half. I don't know where you picked up the game, right? But like,
yeah, no, I do remember that. But I was like, having been with City, Stones had him.
No, Werner was gone. He was down the left, and he gets a free look at Pickford, and he makes a really good save on the ground. And right there, right? And granted, how many times have we said on this show, oh, Timo Werner misses a big chance?
He put it on target. That's the only difference. Like I was not worried. I saw that. I was not worried. I was like, Stones has got him. He put a lot of pressure on him, and Werner has a player with no confidence. It wasn't shot that hard. I think Pickford had it.
Yeah, I thought it was a good save by
I mean, it was an
Pickford,
important,
but
to win big games, you need big saves.
Of course. And so I saw it a little differently. I didn't think England really settled into their shape until, I don't know, midway through the second half. And the reason I think that, and I shouted out our buddy Kenny. He and I were talking during the game. He is also a Spurs supporter. He is also a loyal Harry Kane defender, as am I. And all of the talk, the whole tournament, right, was Kane's doing nothing. Kane can't. He's tired and he needs a rest, and all of the tropes that, like, he's not a tremendous athlete and frankly a horse person, right? If you've ever heard him talk, right? Okay, good. There you go. There's that joke. But he got 3 touches in the first half. And the problem and Kenny sent me a picture, and it was England with the ball in possession in their own, basically coming out of their own third. There were 8 players in frame, more or less flirting around the edge of their 18. Nobody, and there were 3 players ahead. It was Sterling, Kane, and Xhaka, who, by the way, was quite good in a limited role. there was no bridge, right? You had two holding midfielders who were quite literally holding down, right, 5 feet in front of the back line. There was no ability to ping the ball up to anybody. It was a very strange way to kind of go about the game. And then as you started to slowly see Trippier and Walker get a little more forward, you had a little bit more of that bridge. Right? And it took them, I thought, 55, 60 minutes to be able to get there. It really is. It's a pretty striking image of 8 England players almost behind the ball with possession. And you're like, well, what the fuck? Like, how is Kane supposed to do anything?
Yeah, I think that was the intention. I mean, Sterling did have a shot early, and and Maguire had a couple of headed shots off dead ball and alive. So once it got past 15 minutes, I thought England was okay. And then in the 48th minute in the second half is the Havertz shot. And then the big change, our man, the most handsome man in the world, Mr. Grealish, comes on for Saka.
It did everything.
It just fucking, it may have been they were tired. It may have been whatever. I think
the Jack Grealish is really fucking good at facilitating.
Yeah, but just going back a minute, the thing that made Germany look good was Portugal playing 4 at the back, right, and Semedo and Pepe getting lit up. And Southgate recognized, I am not letting this happen. He matched formations to stop that supply from Goossens and Kimmich, and they didn't do anything, right?
That's right.
Right. So he kept them pinned back, and he was happy to control the game. I think I'm going to give Southgate credit because I haven't been. I think he planned it this way. He was like, we're going to do this until this point, then bring Grealish on, and they're not going to be ready to handle it because Grealish is a guy that maybe you don't want them to see. You want it to be fresh. You want it to be a change of pace. He comes on in the 69th minute. It's not a coincidence. 6 minutes later, the combination between Grealish and Shaw and Kane to Sterling, boom, a goal's in.
Well, and Sterling starts that play, right?
The run he makes with the ball is incredible.
Yeah, and so it was basically Sterling starts the play, it goes out wide, and Sterling finishes the play. It was magnificent. And so, I mean, there's just, as much as I can give him shit, that entire goal was completely built around his play, right? And so, yeah, dinging a couple passes around, but it's literally, it's almost as if it was like something Jordan would do, where it's like, hey, here's the ball, give it back to me in 4 seconds, right? Yeah. And it's exactly what happened.
And then I think from that moment on, once England got the goal, and there was a long way to go. I mean, it was in the 75th minute, it became a party. And I thought England were on top of the game. And then 11 minutes later, the same kind of movement, boom, boom, they're passing the ball around. Shaw to Grealish to Kane, gets on it, and it's really, really good again.
I don't see it as much. It was elation. You could feel Wembley breathe, right? A sigh of relief, and it was like, okay, we're up 1-0. Fuck, there's 15 minutes left, right? So I don't know that it was a party just yet, and I know that
there is one more. There's the Thomas, the Muller play. Yeah.
So as much as I can give Sterling all the praise as I just did a moment ago, they're pinging the ball around just past midfield, and Sterling sort of just has a brain fart, and he passes it back to where he thinks, I think it was probably Rice that he was looking for, and the ball just goes errant. And Thomas Muller, one of the most clinical finishers. If they had an Inglourious Bastards for the German national team, Thomas Muller would have been the main character. Okay.
Yeah. He's the guy.
Clinical.
He's about as Germany as Germany gets in terms of being German.
Yes. And so he gets on a clean break from 35, 40 yards. And you're just sitting there going, oh God, not like that. Not like that.
The thing that's funny about that, and I think maybe it was an interview, it was Raphael Honigstein, who's the English-speaking German, who basically is the German correspondent for these sort of blogs. He's on like CBS's coverage of the Champions League. They have him on a lot. He's a well-known journalist. He actually said something that was really interesting. He was like, Thomas Muller has never scored a goal like that, where he has to break away and shoot. His whole thing being with Bayern Munich is he's a guy who moves around in boxes and does weird things and does a flick and he gets on the end of things, but he's not a breakout in space finisher. he basically never has to do that because that never happens to Bayern. Right?
Yeah.
Right? He's the guy before that ball, right? He's the guy who makes that pass to Lewandowski. He's the guy that makes that pass to Sané. So it's not that weird that he missed it, considering he's probably broken in on goal from 40 yards out 3 times in his career.
Okay. However,
he should have finished it.
I'll give you that. However, he's one of the most clinical players in German history.
Yeah.
And here he is at Wembley with a chance to bring the house right back down 5 minutes after Sterling goes ahead.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is that he sort of veered a little bit right, and everybody and their mother goes, well, he's going to curl it around Pickford. And he dragged it, which I thought was his first mistake, right? Like, you just go with your grain.
The other piece is Kyle Walker is moving. He's behind all of them. He's behind Muller. He's behind Stones, and he catches him. And I think,
he didn't catch him, but he applied a little bit.
There was a little pressure. Enough. I don't know.
Sure.
Because he definitely, Muller didn't have time to go around him.
No.
He shot from 15 yards.
He drags it wide. And that's when you could go, literally everybody in Wembley went from, are you shitting me right now? Are you kidding? He missed that. Like, it with the incredulousness. I saw reactions of both English fans and German fans when that ball rolled wide, and the German fans reacted how you would, just completely distraught. And England fans were like closing their eyes, waiting for the bullet to hit them. And they opened them. They're like, what? I'm okay. I'm all right. And then,
they got lucky.
Oh,
and then that would have brought them level. So they would have had a shot, but I think like the mood would have been crushing. And then they took that feeling. It was like a VAR let off.
Yes. That's exactly what it probably was like. Only better, because you didn't have to wait for a referee to point. You got to see it in real time. And then a couple minutes later,
another good move, right?
Our friend Harry Kane is on the end of a great ball in from Grealish, which was symbolic in 100 different ways, both for him, for the country, for the team. Then it was party time, right? And by the way, not an easy ball to head in the net. I just want to go ahead.
No. He leaned backwards. It was a really good header.
A really good finish by Kane.
And then, Germany had 2 more shots from Goretzka at the end of the game, nothing on target, and they just saw it out. And it was pure elation, pure Englishness. It was a cathartic kind of thing that, it's 2 wars. It's 1966. It's losing in Euro in Italy 90 on penalties. That it's losing in 96 on penalties. Gareth Southgate literally, after they win the game, pointing to his goalkeeper from that team in 96 and saying, how much he felt the guilt. It was like, I hope that you guys can forget what happened back then and we have a new memory. Yeah. Right? The guy's been carrying it around for fucking 25 years.
Yeah.
That's just brutal to think about. I just think about all the different players. Like, I think I've heard Steven Gerrard talk about the slip. He's like, it never goes away, ever. I just have it, and it'll never go away. Even with Liverpool winning the league, it won't go away. Right?
No, because he didn't win it.
Right. He just has
it. The only way it could go away is if he wins it as a manager with them. But
yeah, that's a long way away.
It's a long way away. It's probably 2 years away. Well, at least from him getting the job. But it's the one thing that I took from this, and we mentioned the party like atmosphere when Kane scored the second, and it was genuinely just
so cool.
It was great. It was just true. And Kane is being asked a few questions in the post game, and he's kind of
looking around,
starstruck and looking around, and his voice cracks, and he's like, he's almost gonna cry because like the captain of England finally breaks his duck. You know what? You get him service, he's gonna put the fucking ball in the net, folks. And so he does. It's the icing on the cake of the most meaningful win in England's history since 1966, probably,
because they've been bad, like mostly bad.
Yeah.
They have missed World Cups. Like, but you think it's bad when we missed a World Cup. They've missed World Cups.
It's at home. It's at Wembley. It's half full, so there's still 45,000 people there. And by the way, that's something we've touched on over the course of the last few months, but it should not be understated. We've been spoiled here in the U.S. that we've opened up and had fans back in the stands a lot more. 45,000 people at Wembley Stadium is a huge fucking deal right now. Mm-hmm. And for this game, right? So wild scenes.
Yeah. And we're not going to go too deep into it, but I shared with Mike a video from Russell Brand. You know, he's flaky kind of comedian guru guy, whatever. He was probably more famous in this country for marrying Katy Perry, was in some movies in the 2010s.
100% is.
He did about a 15-minute video on sort of like the absurdity of sport and why it's the most important thing that means nothing. But he really tries to capture it. And I think for England, it's this weird catharsis. We're in a shared lockdown and then have a shared release, and all the meanings of Germany, England, all that stuff is deep. It's real. It's rooted. And we don't have ways to express these things, and they come out through sport. I think if I'm honest about this podcast, one of the things that I like to think about, aside from just the X's and O's and the what happened in this game and how to happen here, is just the cultural pieces of it. And this game meant so much more than just England, Germany in a tournament. And if you're a fan of sport and you're a fan of England and you're just getting into soccer and you're starting to feel feels, don't let anybody fucking take that shit away from you. It's as important as seeing a fucking Picasso. It's as important as being in an opera and crying. It's the same feeling, right? Don't let fucking snobby people tell you it's different. A goal to win a fucking tournament against a team that you think you're going to lose to all the time and always is as important as seeing fucking Pavarotti hit a high note and you cry. It's the same feeling. Why do we fucking cry at these weird things that don't mean anything? Shit, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. It's real. It matters. Like, I fucking cry when these games happen, when you cheer with other people. It matters. So get involved in this shit, because it's going to get more and more and more intense and serious. And find someone, if you're not into it, find someone you know who is into it and see the game through what they see, because they're going to need you, right? Win or lose, they're going to need you. They're going to want to grab you and be like, you don't understand what this means to me, or I'm so sad my team lost. Find someone from Italy, find someone from Sweden, find a Ukrainian friend who's third generation, a Spaniard, someone from Belgium. There are no Belgians. Their country's too nice. They stay there. Or find a Dane who's like fucking feeling it, or in Minnesota. I don't know. Find someone and experience it with them, because these games don't happen all the time, and they're why this stuff matters. Wow. I think we got to stop the show.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, I want so badly to disagree with you, because I just enjoy disagreeing with you, but that was perfect. That was 100%, and it's true of this tournament. It's more true of this tournament than most.
Yeah.
And especially
because it's England. It's Europe. These countries have shared history with each other for fucking 3,000 years. There's blood in the streets for all these things. And they've been living this shit out through football since World War II. Weirdly. I mean, it's because they don't fight anymore. Some Serbs and a little Crimea, but otherwise everything's fine.
Speaking of war-torn countries, let's go to Sweden, Ukraine.
Yeah, Ukraine. Right. They're see, this is another one. They're feeling it too. Like, they're feeling their country fucking, it's occupied. Let's not lie. It has been occupied by Russia. They don't feel connected to Russia. Anyway, they're playing as an occupied country.
Well, they're playing as a hell of an underdog against Sweden, who, by the way, won Group C. A group,
and we're my finals team.
And we're your finals team. Here's the ironic thing about this game. Ukraine only had 3 points. They needed badly Sweden to help them out to even get into the round of 16. And the Sweden back and forth game with Poland, right? They were up 2-0. They tie it, and then Sweden wins it. Without that last goal for Sweden, Ukraine's watching it on the couch. So really, really interesting matchup. It's a first place in the group versus a third place. This was never billed going into the tournament as Sweden, Ukraine. This was likely going to be Spain, Ukraine, or Belgium, Ukraine, right? Yeah. So this was probably going to be one of the softer landing spots you would expect a team to really pretty much take care of business, right? And you clearly did, because you had Sweden winning.
Well, to be fair, I think,
I did too. Let's see. Let's go to
the. Although to be fair, there is a red card, but the red card is late.
No, that's late. That's late. That's an extra time.
Yeah, I was really disappointed. I thought that Sweden really didn't attack well. Your friend Ali Moreno made the point about Alexander Isak. He's their young striker. He kept playing sort of small. He kept playing as a 10 and trying to come to the ball when Sweden have that guy. His name is Emil Forsberg, and he's fucking awesome. And I called him out before this. He needed to be running in behind and stretching the Ukrainians. So the Ukrainians got to do what they wanted to do, which was sit in front of the ball. They got their early lead on our guy, Yarmolenko to Zinchenko. Best players.
A word on that goal, because
it's a good goal.
That was a great goal. And it was, so it's two players from the Premier League amongst basically bringing up the rear of Ukraine, which is just frankly not up to that level. But yeah, Yarmolenko again has had a phenomenal tournament. He sort of flicks it from one corner of the 18-yard box to the other, and Zinchenko hammers a volley in first time. That was an awesome goal. And Sweden, it was weird because Sweden then, they got all of the ball. Yeah. Forsberg scores just before half on a sort of a fortuitous bounce, but the goal was coming. So, I mean, you can't really write home too much about that. And then the second half was kind of frenetic for a while. Yarmolenko hits a post early. Forsberg hits the post twice. It could have just been them two against each other with goaltenders at that point, right? Like there was nobody else on the field. We talked about how Isak was kind of invisible, and he was. And it's weird because he's this slender, tall, strong guy, and he just seemed so uninterested or tentative or afraid.
He played like a Spaniard.
He did.
He kind of took that ethos of, sort of coming deep, turning, playing versus what the game called for, which was power and stretching. Right. He needed to channel his Lukaku, not his Morata.
Yep. And so Forsberg hits the post for the second time, right around the 80th minute or so.
Yeah.
And everybody's out of gas at that.
And then
it's hard to watch.
Yeah.
Honestly, the game bleeds out. They go to extra time. There was a red card, as you mentioned. I don't know who it was specifically. I have to look it up.
Danielson.
Thank you.
It doesn't look bad until you see the replay and you're like, and then you're like, that was bad.
Fucking leg is broken.
It had the guy who got hit, had his studs took for a minute, he would have been hurt really bad. So it was high. It was almost just beneath the knee, high on the calf. It was pretty gnarly. So once Sweden went down to 10, they really lost all their impetus. Berg came on to try and score something after Isak came on, but you knew that they were both playing for penalties, but someone didn't read the script, and Zinchenko puts through Dovbyk, and he finishes, and it's in the last minute. It's literally the 120th minute when guys are literally standing around just like, can we just not do this
can we blow
anymore?
the whistle, please?
Yeah.
Great. They were up a man.
And he just slots it home, and that's it. And Ukraine steal one.
Yeah. Like I said, it was a great game for 80 minutes, and then just everybody, the tanks were on E, and they were shot. Yeah. It was honestly the last 40 minutes were kind of hard to watch, but
but that's normal. That is so just for the neutrals in these knockout games, they go to 2 15-minute times, and they in general are poor, especially depending on the intensity of the game. We did not get that in Spain, Croatia, where things went fucking bonkers after extra time. But
France, Switzerland was a little bit tentative as well.
Yeah, they tend to peter out because the guys are exhausted, and even though they do have 5 subs allowed, you can kind of change your team. But
6 with extra time, you get the extra one. Right. But I think it's a philosophy, right? You basically play not to lose. You play. In most cases, especially if you're Ukraine, you're up a man, and you're still kind of playing like, hey, let's not fuck this up, guys. We kind of
let's get this. But they did get it done in the end,
right? But yeah, I mean, it's sometimes, and we saw it in Spain and Croatia. There is an early goal, and when that happens, buckle up, because then you've got ticky-tack all over the place, because the other team, as I mentioned on the last show, they have to go get a tying goal. And then what happens usually is the other team hits them back for another. But if there's not a an early one, it sort of just slowly bleeds out. So it's what you get. But we're going to have England and we're going to have Ukraine, who are, we'll talk about it in a second, eerily similar to maybe an Iceland team from 2016. But first, we want to take care of paying some bills here and do a little live read, courtesy of the Chop Sports Podcast Network. Speaking of saving money on our bills, our friend Joe at Attitude of Gratitude Consulting is a very unique way to save you plenty of cash on your monthly bills. Do us a favor, please visit attitudeofgratitudeconsulting.com. That's www.attitudeofgratitudeconsulting.com for more information.
We like to snack over here at the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast. And man, we just received our shipment of some of the seasonings that Sunflower Meadow Seasoning has sent us. They even have a brand new cheddar beer dip exclusively made for the Chop Sports Network. It's delicious. You have to try it. Mention Chop Sports when you talk to Jess and save some money. Visit sunflowermeadowseasonings.com for their entire lineup of products. I have seen their website. It's incredible. They're at your local fairs in Woodbridge, New Jersey. Get some of their stuff and really enjoy it at sunflowermeadowseasonings.com. And let's get back to it.
Yeah. And so, in the last Euro tournament in 2016, England walked into the round of 16 feeling pretty good about their draw. And they were tasked with getting past an upstart Iceland team, who had since become the darlings of the tournament with their skull clap and their Gylfi Sigurdsson and everything, right? They blew it. They lost, right?
Yeah. That team was coached by Roy Hodgson.
It was a Roy Hodgson team. They had Harry Kane on free kicks. They were questionable decision makers all across the pitch at best. I do think that this team is different. And I do think that the World Cup in 2018 kind of was like, all right, we fucked that one up. But the run they made in 2018 sort of put that to bed. But it should be said that the Ukraine matchup in Rome on Saturday, I believe, it smacks a little bit of it. What do you think?
I think there is some danger there. I mean, as an England fan, and I'm sure every English person is feeling this since France is out, they've got to be nervous. They're kind of like of the national sides. They're the most typical city. It's like typical England. So these are feelings that I understand. Like, even though my team's incredible and they win all the time, I still think they're going to lose. Like, you just feel like England could fuck it up, and you have to, until they don't, you think they will. Right. It's almost, it's Spursiness. It's
nothing to do with City.
And I think, to be fair, most people feel that way about their team, except asshole fans like United and Liverpool, who feel, and Real Madrid, who feel very entitled to win everything. Right. But really, most people's teams are like, we're going to fuck this up until we don't. And that's why when you win, it feels so fucking amazing, because you're like, I thought we were going to lose until that whistle blew.
Right.
And I think for England, there's this sense of just massive euphoria, and it's going to be difficult to calm down, pull themselves back together, and take on a Ukraine team that is playing with house money. They don't give a shit right now.
No.
And football's weird. Weird shit can happen.
There's one advantage, ironically, I think that plays to England's hand. This game won't be at Wembley Stadium. It'll be the first game of the tournament. Good thing. Yeah, it's the first game of the tournament. They will be leaving London to play in.
The fans cannot travel too because of COVID restrictions.
Right. I see that as something that, and I mentioned it when we were chatting off air. I was hoping that Gareth Southgate would get them the fuck out of England the day after the Germany game. Right. Yeah. Settle in Italy, settle in Rome, get comfortable with the surroundings, have a training session, light training session, but walk through and all that stuff. Get listen, your Germany win is going to be remembered regardless of what happens next.
Yeah.
But if you want that to be the memory and not everything else that you hope to accomplish, you need to put it behind you immediately. Yeah. So I do think that if they were in Wembley again, if the fans were there again, there would be a party-ish hangover atmosphere to start that Ukraine game, and they can get smacked. So getting away from all of that, I think I don't read a lot into intangibles like that, but in this case, I think
it helps
their mindset.
Man, because we're going to get into Czech Republic and Denmark and all these other teams that are carrying. Every team is at this point carrying emotions, right? You have the talent, but I think one of the things I've noticed about this tournament is there are teams that are winning on emotion. There are teams that are winning on history. And at this level, sometimes the talent is not the most important thing, right? It's fight, it's spirit, it's what can you bring to the table. When we think about Denmark carrying Eriksen with them everywhere they go. It's shown in their sharpness for sure, but they're definitely carrying Eriksen with them. And against the Czech Republic that we talked about, a team that plays on spirit in terms of organization and their best players. What we see at these levels is, yes, the players aren't as good as a group, but when you think about someone like Ukraine, they're just going to play through Yarmolenko. And if City
and Zinchenko on the other
side, look at me calling England City. And if England don't sort of sick their best defender on him and be like, mark him, sit on him. Don't let him do anything. He's going to cut inside and he will try and shoot with his howitzer left foot. And he might get hurt. If you push him, he'll get injured because that's what he does. But, David Moyes was tired of him, but the Ukraine is not tired of him.
No, the Ukraine will never tire of him.
He'll just keep shooting. And they have a big, strong center forward. And they have Alex Zinchenko from City, who's a very, very talented player who can mess you up. But they have 3 and England have 20. Guys who can do that, right? So,
but I think it's a good point, right? I would put Declan Rice on him. You go where he goes. Yeah. Don't sit back. You go where he goes.
I would put Phillips. He's just much more.
I was going to say Phillips just as much, right? Like either one.
And then for Southgate, don't change it. Just run it back, right? Sure. Run it back.
Right, because I mean, the same way that Gozens was the guy for Germany, it is Zinchenko for Ukraine,
and they're sticking him at left back still. So those things are things. But we do have
moving forward.
We do have super duper heavyweight matchups coming up tomorrow. Belgium, Italy, I think is probably the biggest one. Belgium comes into this game limping. No Hazard, maybe. KDB definitely out after another ankle injury.
I believe Hazard is out.
Starting to get me worried that he keeps getting injured on his ankles. Not a good thing.
By the way, a note on KDB. I did not realize this, and it has given me pause on City's pursuit of Jack Grealish. Now, we have not really talked about the transfer market. We're not going to until the end of the Euros, but KDB turned 30 the other day.
I know. He's not a kid.
I didn't realize that. I thought he was like 27, 28.
No.
Older than that.
Yeah. I mean, he's been at City since 16, so it's been a minute. And depth is starting to be an issue for Belgium. They have guys going down. I think this is a big moment for Lukaku. He has been their best player. Other players have had moments, but this group is now getting old. Like they were a golden generation. And yesterday or 2 days ago was the anniversary of the Tim Howard game. Again, moments of glory. The 16 saver against Belgium, and that's already 7 years, right? So if these guys
damn you, Chris Wondolowski, you
motherfucker, you loser from Chico. But that's the depth of the U.S., right?
Why you got to do that to me?
But no, because Belgium, to illustrate, they were guys.
Right.
It's 7 years on, and football life is short. Like they were young at 23 7 years ago. Oh, it's a golden generation. Yeah, now KDB is 30. And Alderweireld is 34, and Vermaelen is 36, and Vertonghen is 33. Like, that's their defense. So they're in their 30s.
I'm going back to look at how they lined up against Russia, because that was without both Hazard or Eden Hazard, the worst Hazard, and KDB, right? And they played a 4-3-3. They had Boyata centering Vertonghen and Toby. They had Timothy Castagna, great season for Leicester. I'm glad to see him back on his feet because he got hurt towards the end. Yeah. Then Donker and Tielemans in the middle. Thorgan Hazard, the good Hazard, on the left.
Right, but he's not a fucking back.
No. It was a 3-4-3, right? So he was sort of in the midfield. Yeah. And then Mertens, Lukaku, and Carrasco against the Russia team that gave them the game.
What about the Portugal game is what you want to talk about?
Well, no, because they were without both of them for this game. They had KDB and they had
against Italy, they may play in this sort of three at the back.
That's why I'm looking at this formation, right?
Yeah, I don't know how they'll play.
I don't either, but I'm just looking at the personnel that they would be picking from, right? Like, I mean, realistically,
they still have Witzel and
Tielemans.
We know will be there for sure.
Of course, I think Witzel comes in for Den Donker.
They played Vermaelen in a 3, and he kicked fucking Ronaldo's ass.
You know what? Another thing you could do.
But they are old.
It's not the worst thing you could do here. You could put Chadley up front with Benteke. With Lukaku.
Yeah.
And a 4-4-2. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying, like, it is an option. And when you're looking at, frankly, playing down your two best players, there are no good options necessarily.
I think the thing that's interesting is we know that Martinez is not a pragmatic guy. He's going to want to attack. That's what he comes from. That's what he always did. He would always give up goals. That performance against Portugal was poor, but they did get the goal from Hazard. I just think it's a moment. It's going to be on talent, and the best player on the field is Romelu Lukaku, and he's got to either make something happen by running with power, or if Belgium resorts to putting the ball up in the air, he's got to hold it up and let those midfielders get to him if Mertens is going to play, and he's got to lead the line and really be the guy. I think this is one of those moments where the best player on both teams is Lukaku, and he has to be the difference.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
The Italian team has depth. They don't have a Lukaku, but they have a bunch of dudes, and it's hard to even know. Like, I know it sounds funny, but they have the Italian names with the O's and a Barazzi, but like, I don't even know who any of them are, but they're good as a group. And I know that Mancini is a really good coach, but he will play defensive. One of the things I remember from his City days is one of the things he would do, and he did that in the game against who did they play? Switzerland? No, in this round of 16, Italy,
Austria
in the game against Austria. The Arnautovic game is he waited till the 86th minute to bring on Chiesa, who immediately changed the game. He used to do that with Yaya Toure. Yaya Toure used to play at the base of the midfield in a holding role, and when City were behind and the game was drawn late in the game in like the 80th minute, he'd bring on someone to become the holder and be like, yeah, go win us the game. Play at the 10. So then he would play up. He would play up with Silva.
Right. And
that was always really frustrating. I'm like, just play Yaya up top. He's not a fucking holding midfielder anymore. He's lazy. He doesn't want to run anymore. He wants to just shoot and be insane. And that's what happened when Pellegrini came in. He was like, Yaya, you play up front and let's get this final W.
I know he's not pragmatic, but I wonder how many long balls Toby. I've seen it a million times.
He's such a good passer from back
He's such a good long ball passer.
Vertonghen too.
But Toby's better at it. Yeah. And he would always have a player running off the back shoulder. If that's Lukaku and they sync up on that, that's a goal. That's going to happen.
But the thing, for those to work though, the fullbacks have to kind of be shifted inside. It's got to be diagonal, this double diagonal thing where people are running in the other direction to give space.
Again, in lieu of Kevin de Bruyne and Eden Hazard not coming through that door, you go, okay. And believe me, I've seen it a million times with Spurs when, all these players are hurt and it's like, okay, just even when Kane's hurt, it's like, all right, ping out fucking long balls to Sonny and see what we can do. And you know what? He drops him on a dime. The reason that Dele Alli broke out years ago is because he had like 5 goals in like 2 months that were right off of Toby Alderweireld's foot from 70 yards away.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and this is not to speak ill of Dele, but like those were incredible assists that just, and that's, by the way,
I don't know if does he have that anymore? Toby
with the pass. Oh yeah.
Okay.
He lost the speed, but he's never lost that.
Yeah. And then on the Italy side, it's can they bring that swashbuckling play from the group stage? They were pretty bad in the round of 16, and Austria probably should have won that game. 3 inches offside for Arnautovic, and Italy's gone. They scored their goals in extra time. So
I think a full strength Belgium handles
has no problem with Italy. Yes,
quite easily.
And the other piece is this Italy team is young. They are coming together quickly. They have not given up a goal in I think 8 months, which is
since the last Olympics.
This is insane. But yeah, I mean, this is for our pool, this is a make or breaker because Belgium and Italy are 2 favorites still left. And then we have some people who are doing the Spain-Swiss game, which is the other game tomorrow. Also interesting. No Xhaka. He's on a yellow card suspension. That's bad for the Swiss.
That's tough.
They need him.
Yeah.
But their supply has come from Zuber. I know this sounds like they're fucking Fraggle Rock. Passing to Seferovic, who's 6'3". And you know what? Spain's defense is not. So I'm curious as to how Spain will defend Zuber on the as the fullback, crossing the ball into Seferovic. Will they sort of get out there? I think the issue with Spain is they're so good on the ball. Swiss will sit on the ball, but they just beat fucking France. And Spain is not better than France.
Look, I mean, right? They took care of France. They came back frenetically, 2 goals down in 10 minutes to go. So even if Spain have the lead and have the ball, do not count out Switzerland here.
Especially after
the Croatians did it to them.
Right. Yeah. So there's weakness within Spain. So I still don't trust Morata. I still don't trust fundamentally the athleticism of the Spaniards. I don't know if the Swiss can exploit that. Seferovic has scored over 20 goals in 2 of the last 3 seasons in Portugal. He's 6'3". He doesn't even finish games. He's scores goals in less than 20 starts per season. So he's got a good strike rate. He's been scoring goals for the Swiss. And then Zuber is leading of all the players still available in the tournament. He's number 1 in assists. Yep. So those will be the 2 danger men to watch out for. And then for Spain, it's can they defend while keeping the ball? If they try and defend without the ball, they will get beat because they don't have the physicality to hang with these teams. They just don't have the players. It's not the reason why they had their golden generation is because they had a golden generation of 6'3" defenders in Puyol, Ramos, and Piqué, right?
Xavi helped.
He was 5'4".
No, I know,
right? but those guys helped, right? But in terms of dealing with crosses and dealing with the shithousery of we can't control the ball all the time, but when it comes, we need to be able to be physical. And I think that piece of defense was a once in a lifetime thing. And that's where the Spaniards are right now. They fucking played Eric Garcia. He's 5'7". You can't play him. He's going to get stomped, especially in a game that's physical that the Swiss will want to. So I think the key thing to watch for is if the Swiss start fucking shithousing, that's a good sign for the Swiss.
It's good for, Yeah, we've got 4 games. And I mean, aside from England, Ukraine, which let's be clear, we talked about, it should go England's way.
They should beat them by 5.
Yeah, sure. Really. Aside from that game,
it's all toss-ups.
It's all toss-ups. And we'll touch quickly on the Czechs and Denmark. Again, you touched on it. It's togetherness. It's belief. It's
both teams. This is like the Heart Bowl.
Oh God, it's awesome. It's just who it's quite literally the old football, who wants it more sort of thing. That's what we're going to be watching. And that's on Saturday. I believe that's the undercard on Saturday before England, Ukraine.
Yes.
Oh God, this is going to be awesome. If you haven't bought into this tournament, well, you're not listening this deep into the show, but that's going to be noon Eastern on Saturday, and then Ukraine, England at 3 Eastern. It's a tremendous few days of football. And then we come right back, and Tuesday and Wednesday are going to be the semifinal. We'll obviously talk to you on Monday
First
night.
Of all, who the fucking idiots who goddamn scheduled this thing? Give them a week off so you have a good game. Who is a semifinal on a Tuesday? What the fuck is wrong with you? We need Americans to run.
Well, it's because they have the final on a Sunday. But yeah, I mean, what the fuck else is everybody doing?
Right? I never understand. The Champions League final used to be on Wednesday nights. What are you doing?
Oh God. Yeah. So you've got a Monday and a Tuesday, and then a Friday and a Saturday. You know what? That's fine. That's fine. Because especially there was a lot of games in the round of 16. That's fine. You could have had, Tuesday, right? So the winners of the Friday games play on Tuesday. The winners of the Saturday games play on Wednesday. You're right. Why is that not Friday, Saturday again? And then the next week, which would have been the
big
17th?
build up to the final. like it's the Super Bowl. It is the Super Bowl.
No, we talked about this during the Champions League final. Where's all the coverage? Where's the Pep's, human interest story? I agree.
Yeah. I need to know everything about Alex Zinchenko having a baby and his wife.
Yeah.
Why do I not know that? They just don't get it. Like, you could bring people in. It's so
funny. The weird fucking thing is that they completely understand like 80% of it, right? And the last 20% of the human interest, the auxiliary stuff, the extra things, the Zinchenko wife story, the Pep's mom story, there's Harry Kane
going back to your hometown, all that stuff.
Yeah.
They just don't do it.
Oh,
it's brutal.
You're gonna have let's pretend for a second England gets there. You're gonna have Thursday, Friday, 3 days of buildup before the European Championships at Wembley Stadium. And it's very possible, it's not likely, that England gets there. Wouldn't that make sense to have 10 days of blown the fuck out media coverage to the point where everybody's like sitting? Oh my God. And here's the thing. The
game just please happen, but it's not for the people who are into it. It's for the people who are just sort of slowly dragged along.
Well, the thing is that I don't know that really exists, at least in England. I saw a ratings report that said this didn't include pubs or big halls that showed the game or whatever. 27 million, the ratings were 27 million people watched that game.
In England?
There's 55 million people in the country. Half the fucking, and again, that does not count fields with big fucking projectors. That doesn't count pubs. That doesn't count.
I think we have to put that into context.
Half the country.
150 million Americans do not watch the Super Bowl.
No.
It's not close. It's more like 40.
Right. Yeah. And think about the size of the United States and the size of England, which, as you've said many times in the show,
the size of New York State
is the size of New York State. So imagine 27 million people in the size, not even all that Buffalo bullshit, just straight up cut it off at the Pennsylvania line and go straight up to Poughkeepsie or wherever that is, Plattsburgh. And you go, okay, bring along Long Island. That's fine. 27 million people in that stretch of land.
It's a lot
watching one thing at one time.
And all the Scottish hating you and all the Welsh hating you in your country that they live in.
That's Massachusetts. That's Massachusetts.
Yeah. It is amazing. It is amazing. All right, Mike. I am going to wrap this thing up.
Let's do it.
That was the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast with Mike Salerno and Laurent Cortines, the football wing of the Chop Sports Network. They released their website today. Really beautiful. Good job, guys. We record on Tuesdays and Fridays, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're listening on Apple, please review the show so we can reach more crazy football fans like yourself.